Hi, hey, how's it going? What's up, man? Listen, you are either one of two people watching this video. You're either just a passerby that just happened to click on this video, or you are my friend who this video was addressed to. Now, whoever you might be, dear viewer, I'm sure you'll be able to learn something. And each person is organized by their names alphabetically, so don't sweat about the organization or the order of appearance too much. I just listed your names alphabetically. And there will also be timestamps along with chapters, so you can skip directly to your part if you would like to. But I highly recommend, watching the entire thing. Unless you're Milkoi or like Uriel. I don't know. Some of you guys are better than me. You don't really need to watch the entire video. Some of you guys can skip to it. Do whatever you want. Now, if you could only have one takeaway from this video, it's the 10-second rule. Literally, the most important thing I'm going to preach is that if you cannot make it to a fight within 10 seconds of seeing it on the map, you gotta let it go and start mourning your teammates because you're not going to make it in time to cause impact. You'd just be arriving to a losing fight, or you'd be arriving to a already won fight and feeding, or just standing around useless and just spending time moving away from your teammates. Instead, consider taking the objectives and stealing enemy camps from right where you are to, cause some sort of impact from the fight that's happening on the other side of the map. And the reason I say 10 seconds and not a certain distance is because obviously some characters are better equipped to arrive at fights faster. Take, for example, Mirage, who has a cross-map TP, who can obviously arrive at any fight he wants, versus fucking Vindicta. I don't know. Mirage is obviously going to arrive at the fight faster every single time. So, if you can't make it to that fight, what should you do? Well, like I said before, push objectives, man. Okay, so first off is Deppy. Imagine this. You're queuing with me, and I've left you after dominating our lane, like I do a lot of the time. And what do you do in a one lane whilst being up in souls? Farm? Fight? Hell no, bro! You gotta start pushing objectives, man. You have a habit of clearing waves and just leaving to farm instead of the classic always go one more wave, right? Typically, you want to gain priority on a lane before leaving to farm. I noticed a lot of the time the lane that you've been guarding has not been able to make it past the halfway point. And I know sometimes you just don't have enough info to push an objective safely, like there'll be 5 people missing from the map, but what good does waiting do, right? When you have the most souls in the entire lobby, you just gotta start getting active and control the game yourself, because when you're playing defensively, you're playing to react to the opponent's decisions. And 9 times out of 10, the person reacting is simply slower to arrive to an objective than the person initiating that push, right? So my recommendation, genuinely start pushing objectives more often and farm a lot less. And if you are going to farm, you should do it in enemy camps because, if you're up in souls, then you really shouldn't be taking camps from us. You should be taking it from the enemy team when you're able to duel them much easier, right? And also, we gotta have a conversation about your builds, bro. Especially, like, what items you're counterbuying. You're just getting CC'd a bunch, man. Like, that Venator game we had the other day? Bro, where's your counterspell? That Rem slept you 5 times. Just buy counterspell like every single game, bro. Wallah, I swear to you, that game is the #1 picked item in Night Shift for a reason. Wallahi, I promise you. And one last thing to mention is that occasionally you chase an enemy way too far instead of, focusing on what else you could be doing. Sometimes an enemy just gets away from you, and you just gotta live with that fact, and just let him go, because you can make value happen somewhere else on the map. All right, Everett. So the one thing I noticed, it's a pretty small thing, but it has big implications. The tiny thing I noticed watching you play in the demo is your resource management. Now, what do I mean by resource management? I'm talking about taking care of your cooldowns stamina, and ammo. Those 3 things. Those 3 resources, very important to you. Now, throughout your gameplay, I noticed that a lot of the time you just dash kind of pointlessly. You also fire bullets without sliding, which is, it's not necessarily that bad, but when you're on a character such as Ivy, who has a really bad ammo problem, it is pretty detrimental. And sometimes you use some of your most valuable abilities to farm, which, in and of itself, not necessarily a bad thing. But if you get caught out while you're farming and you don't have your most valuable ability, it's pretty bad for you, right? Especially when you're farming something that's pretty inconsequential. Okay, so what can you do to improve? Well, starting off the clip, you actually went through Secret Shop, right? And you actually managed to get to the sledge without using stamina, which is pretty good. And then you took a couple of slides here, which is really good. Sliding will just keep your momentum, and it's just unequivocally the best thing to do. But once you got around to this part, what you did was just do this, which is really, really bad, right? Now, I didn't catch whether the zipline was available, but I assume not, because the miniway was all the way up here in that clip. But here is something you can do, right? You want to use the zipline very often. You want to use it all the time, right? Because if you get on the zipline, and as soon as you attach to it, you press Control, here's what's going to happen. Check this out. You see how much forward momentum you have? You have enough to slide, B-hop, slide. It's really good movement, right? You can even pair it up with the stamina if you want. You can hit Control and Shift at the same time, and you'll get even more height, right? Additionally, when you're in lane, there's a lot of stairs, a lot of slopes you can use to clear, right? Ooh, I'm clearing wave. I'm sliding to preserve stamina like this, right? Even when you're in this tier 2 camp over here as well, right? You want to use this stairs, so I just go down like this. And look at this. I have two ammo, but I'm going to just perpetually keep on doing this. And I've cleared the wave, or cleared the entire tier 2 camp with 2 bullets, mind you, without using my 40-second invincibility button. This 40-second cooldown. I guess, it's like only 15 seconds when it's on tier 2, but still, you wanna keep it, man. Try not to use it too much. All right, Lenny. So the biggest thing I think you can do to improve is work on your ability to farm. Now, you might be wondering, what the hell do you mean by that? Because farming is just shooting neutrals. How can someone improve at that? Well, just taking a good look at how you farm as Wraith, we can point out a couple of issues. First off, we need to understand why we're farming, right? Our end goal. We farm to get souls so that we can spend it on an item. Take a look at this clip where you have more than enough to buy your next item, which the demo shows is you have queued up Counterspell. But your hundreds of souls overflow, yet you keep farming. Always remember what you're farming for and run to a shop as soon as you get the souls to purchase your power spike, right? And another thing you should do is generally be aware of the info you have while farming, because farming neutrals is the least mentally taxing thing you can do in this game. So you should use that opportunity to check your map, see if there are any waves that needs to be fixed, take note of where the enemies are. Can you make a play off of where the enemies are? How big of a bag are you carrying? If you fought right now and you lost the bag, would it be game losing? Would it be detrimental to your team? And how much damage did you take from camps? Like, are you at an HP point to go into a fight? Is your HP bar high enough at all after all that farming? They're all really good questions to consider while farming. Okay, so if paying attention to the map is the name of the game while farming, how do we do that for sinners? Well, I can't tell you how to do it for single sinners because it would require you to pay attention to your sound, but here's something we can do for double sinners. So when you finish a sinner's machine and the light bulbs go does a wind up thing, it's actually a global timer that every single sinners goes off of. Every single sinners has the same timer. So we can abuse that fact by going up to one of the double centers and just punching it once and leaving it, because we're going to finish the other one. And let me show you what happens when I just keep on heavy meleeing, right? Check this out. I'm going to step back. I'm going to finish that. Notice how, without even delaying, I hit this. Look at that. It perfectly times it so that every single... Okay, not every single. It times it so that both centers machines gives you the golden statue buffs, which is really cool. Alright, Milkoi. Pookie, you could even say. Listen, the one thing you need to do, I swear to God, is that you just gotta work on movement. And I don't mean simple movement, like zipline dashing, or like conserving your stamina with like dashing and sliding. What I mean is like advanced stuff. Corner boosting, edge boosting, wall jumping on the earned delivery, all that kind of stuff. I know your ass is unemployed, okay? Just like throw on... Okay, there's this YouTuber. There's this really good YouTuber who makes very advanced tutorials on movement. And I think he genuinely knows and understands what he's talking about. I know you have the time to just throw it up on your second monitor while you're doing your 5 gacha game dailies that you take 2 hours to do. I know you got the time to do that, okay? And just to get you started, you know what? Just to get you started, let's look at how to get out of Secret Shop without using stamina, right? You want to come up to the right side on this little barrel thing. You want to jump.
Silver, what have you gotten yourself into?
Silver, please. I'm trying to speak. You're going to jump, and delaying your jump a little bit, you want to wall jump and then immediately grab onto the wall, right? So check this out. Look at that. You get out of Secret Shop without even using stamina. And then let's say that you want to get faster at delivering earn, right? If you want to do that, the number one thing you should learn is how to wall jump off of that with the vent, because it's going to give you more lateral movement. It's going to give you faster lateral movement instead of upwards momentum, right? So check this out. You're going to wall jump off here, and you want to mantle like right around here, as close to the wall as you can get, pretty much. And then, you know, as soon as you get up there, you need to work on your timing just a little bit, but eventually you'll be able to get that wall jump down pretty easily. And once you're down here, right, you can use this to corner boost. Okay, well, I did it terribly that time, but you can also use this to corner boost, right? Just coming out to the end to get that little bit of extra height. And then did you know you can surf on this lip like this? Like, just use your stamina like that, right? And then you're over here already at the earn. So just these little things that add on to each other that help you save time on your earn delivery. All right, Mohammad Jaden. I don't know if you guys still play this game anymore, because I usually see you guys on Where Winds Meet and Overwatch, but I figured I could still drop this in case you guys want to hop back on. So a common misconception between you two is that you're bound to a singular lane for the entirety of the early game. You can gank whenever, you know, you have free will. There's literally no one stopping you from doing so. Now, there is a distinction between when you should and shouldn't gank, right? Obviously, duh. But typically, you want to help other lanes the moment you lose or win your own lane. And that's the most common occurrence of ganking, but you could do it earlier. You can do it earlier. It just has to be a gank that gives better value or is more guaranteed, right? So take, for example, you're taking bridge buff and you realize the lane over is really close to winning a fight. They just need like a little push. Like imagine the enemy team, the enemy 2 players are like far below half HP. That would be prime gank time. You just gank, spend that extra 20 seconds to get those 2 kills, set your teammates up for victory, and then you make your way back over to your own lane, because I'm sure your teammate can handle a 1v2 for 20 seconds, bro. It's not that serious. And, you know, also be aware of that happening during your own games, right? Be aware of when your teammates make to call out that a certain person is missing from their lane, and make sure you're calling it out too. If you don't see one of the people laning against you for a really long time, like, just click on their icon, you know? Hold tab, hover your mouse over their icon, click on them, and then your character will say, Infernus is missing. And then, you know, you'll make a call out to your teammates that, hey, this character is ganking, watch out, whatever. Ocean. Okay, so 3 things. 2, not as important as the first one. The biggest thing is you are a big time waster when it comes to objectives. There are moments in your gameplay where half the enemy team will be on like a 20-second timer, and you're just farming camps instead of, you know, pushing a lane to the walker for an extra slot. Time is of the utmost essence in Deadlock. There have been games where I kid you not, there have been games where I lost because I made the mid-boss call 5 seconds too late. 5 seconds too late, man. Your number one priority should always be to push a lane, right? Kills always come later. You can always get kills later. Objectives, there's only 3 of them, right? Well, 3 main ones, I suppose. The walkers. Make sure you keep in mind the Icysandwich branded list of priorities during the mid game, which in order from most to least important is destroying an objective, if safe, clearing a wave to gain priority, sinners, tier 3 to tier 2 camps, and boxes. The other 2 things that we need to have a private discussion on is what kind of a build are you running, bro? You buy egg on Drifter and refuse to hit a 4.8k spike until 14 minutes into the game. What are we doing? And also, you know, the third thing is stop raw dog meleeing stuff. I'm sure it's been like drilled into your mind after getting parried a bunch of times, but Ocean, we gotta talk, man. We gotta talk about that. Maybe you should just buy Reactive Barrier and Counterspell every single game, just so you you get a shield for when you get parried. I don't know. All right, Rain. I'm gonna make this actually a little bit short because I don't necessarily have any tips to give you in terms of melee. I don't know that much about melee, but this guy on YouTube named Cyrus happens to know so much about meleeing that he's dedicated 2 videos totaling 14 minutes in length, literally all about meleeing. Like, how the fuck did he do that? So I'm just gonna link those 2 videos in the description. You go ahead and look at it. It's got some, it's a gold mine of information. I've never learned more about heavy meleeing than before I watched those videos. Honest to God. And Sid, we gotta stop meleeing to secure kills. We just gotta stop. We just gotta stop. Maybe even unbind that button. Honestly, that might like bump your rank up to Phantom. I don't know. I'm being Kirkenuan. Okay, so last little VOD review, I guess VOD review is putting it generously, of the day. Literally 80% of the people who are in the Gorilla server, I'm looking at you guys, you specifically. Bro, I genuinely thought that when Milkoi said, "This is the Gorilla server, we do not counter buy," I thought he was joking. On my life, I thought he was joking when he said that. But you guys need a lesson in counter buying, bro. Now, there are very obvious counter buys you can make in this game, right? Like, for example, counterspell into literally every single character into the game. But there are some situational items that you could buy that might be unintuitive at first. So I remember having this conversation with Milkoi a little bit ago, which I thought was really really insightful. He brought up a really good point. We were in a game, and I'm pretty sure 4 people on the enemy team were doing spirit damage. They were building for spirit. So I was going to buy spirit resilience, but then Milkoi says, what kind of damage would Rem and Mo and Krill even do? And I think he said, like, go for plated armor, because that silver is way scarier. Something like that. There was a gun character out of, like, 5 spirit characters that was far scarier than all the rest. And the takeaway is that you shouldn't necessarily counterbuy into generally the entire enemy team, but rather, like, their biggest threats, right? I wouldn't buy Spellbreaker against the Vindicta if she's 1 in 12. She's not going to do anything. She's going to tickle me. But if I see a Calico carrying the hell out of their team, right, I'm going to purchase Slowing Hex, even if she's the only person that I could use it against. And that's it. I hope you were able to learn something valuable today, learn something new, and most importantly, I hope that some of you guys apply the things you've learned in the games that we play starting from now. And just in case you're wondering if I hit that shot from the intro on that Kelvin, well...
Kelvin dead?